Uganda 24/7 YouTube channel. Please subscribe, share and comment.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Amanya nze Haji Mukiibi omusomi w'edduwa. Nkuba omulanga mwenna abali ebule n'ebweya abali emangalibi ne mashariki. Buli kimu kyonna bw'owulira nti ekyakukwatako kyagaana buli ky'okwatako emikono tekikola nja kukuyamba era nja kukukolera buli ky'oyagala. Mujje mbasomere edduwa pijja kutereera. Omuntu atasobodde kutuuka wendi nina ettogero. Ompa amannya go ne ngawandiika ne ngasuula mu ttogero ne nkulombera edduwa. Ebyo byonna by'obadde olowooza byonna bijja kusimulukuka. Haji Mukiibi nsangibwa ku nnamba 0752 71 0883. Tewali kigaana kyonna nga Allah yembezi waffe.
Breaking news, amawulire agakagwawo akadde kano. President w'eggwanga Uganda General Yoweri Kaguta Museven ng'akozesa obuyinza obumuweebwa ssemateeka eyabagibwa mu mwaka gwa 1995 bw'atyo afulumiza cabinet empya gy'agenda okubeera nga akulembera nayo eggwanga Uganda okuva mu mwaka guno ogwa 2026 paka 2031. Twamaze okulonda speaker olunaku lw'eggulo ne deputy speaker, kati ate olunaku olwaleero General Yoweri Kaguta Museven afulumiza list yabo ba minister bagenda okubeera nga akola nabo. Ndi wano okubeera nga nkusomera amannya gaabo ba minister abalondeddwa n'ebifo mwe balondeddwa mwe bagenda okubeera nga ate bakuweerereza. So nkusaba obeere keen owulirize bulungi nnyo. Omubaka wo afunyeyo ekifo mu cabinet, omubaka wa abadde minister akyali minister oba takyali minister, wabula nze ekiko yankubye dda waliyo wendabye minister waffe taliiwo. Minister waffe taliiwo. Tugenda kubeera nga tubiraba ani gwe bajjeewo ani gwe baleseewo mupya ki gwe bongeddemu. Kati kyenjagala okole gwe tuulakalira ku mukutu Uganda 24/7 video gimpereka like ojwa kale kijiyambako okutambula netuuka neko yenna gwe tanaba kubanga etuuka kugwa. Tulabye omulundi gwo ogusoose subscribinga ku mukutu tusobole okubeera nga ate tutambulira wamu. Njagala tutandike n'abasookera ddala kubanga President Kaguta Museven asoose nakutubuuzaako ng'enkola ye bweri atuyita abazzukulu be. Kakati agenze ku mukutu gwe ogwa X edda gye twayitanga Twitter n'ateekayo n'agamba nti by virtue of the powers given to the President of Uganda under Article 108 Cap 1 and Cap 2 108A Cap 1 111 Cap 1 113 Cap 1 and 114 Cap 1 of the 1995 Constitution of the Republic of Uganda nga obuyinza obuweebwa President w'eggwanga Uganda mu ssemateeka eyabagibwa mu mwaka gwa 1995 mu article 108 akawaayiremu 108A akawaayiremu mu 111 akawaayiro emu mu 113 akawaayiremu ne mu 111 akawaayiremu akwa constitution eno ey'eggwanga Uganda. The following persons have been proposed for appointment as Vice President, Prime Minister, Cabinet Minister, Minister of State and Senior Presidential Advisors. Agamba nga asinzire ku buyinza obumuweebwa ssemateeka mu nnyingo ezo zenkumenyedde. Abantu bano wabbanga balondeddwa nga Vice President, Prime Minister, Cabinet Ministers, Minister of State and Senior Presidential Advisors. Bengenda okubeera nga nkusomera wano akadde kano. Asookera ddala Vice President batulekeddewo Jessica Rose Appel Arupo Major retired. Oyo mwena mumumanyi. Bwe tudda wano ku Right Honorable Prime Minister and Leader of Government Business in Parliament ne batulekerawo Honorable Robina Nabbanja. Kane tugenda kuba Cabinet Ministers. Asookera ddala batuwa the first Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for East African Community Affairs. Minister ow'ensonga za East Africa batulekeddewo Right Honorable Rebecca Alitwala Kadaga. Second Deputy Prime Minister and Deputy Leader of Government Business in Parliament ne batuletera Dr. Crispus Walter Kiyonga. Third Deputy Prime Minister and Minister without portfolio ne batuletera Honorable Lukia Nakadama. Minister of Education and Sports ne batuleetera oba ne batulekerawo Honorable Janet Kataha Museven. Kati ababadde bagamba ababadde babungese ngambo nti first lady nti taliyo mukiraba tebasobola kuteekawo muntu mu cabinet nga taliiwo. Ebyo bigambo byammwe. Ne batwongerayo minister muzinda logweterera tukole naawe. Ne batuwa minister office of the presidents ne batulekerawo Honorable Babiri Emmire Babalanda, minister office of the president security ne batulekerawo Honorable Jim Muhwezi. Muzinda logwe oyire empuutu. Kati tugenderaawo kale. Minister office of the president security oyo Jim Muhwezi, minister office of the president in charge of science technology and innovation ne batuleetera engineer Asimwe Jonad, minister for Kampala city and metropolitan affairs ne batuleetera Honorable Misa Kabanda onera yabaddewo ku nsonga za Kampala, minister of office of the prime minister general duties ne batuleetera ni Honorable engineer Hilary Oneke yaliwo, government chief whip ne tubeera nga tulina Honorable Justin Kasule Lumumba, minister office of the prime minister relief disaster preparedness and refugees ne batuwa Honorable Sam Engola, minister for Karamoja affairs eyakirika kadde kanaaliruzira ku nsonga za kubba mabaati. Ku luno batuleetedde Honorable Loki John Baptist ono ndowooza nzaalo yaye ye Karamoja, minister of agriculture animal industry and fisheries, minister w'ebyobulimi ebisolo kw'osa n'ebyennyanja batuleetedde Honorable Frank tumwebaze ab'okutuyita bamutegeera nnyo. Attorney General ne batuleetera Honorable Sam Mayanja. Honorable Sam Mayanja yoga. Minister of Defense and Veteran Affairs wano we wabadde speaker waffe akadde kano Jacob Oboth wano wabadde kati batuleeterewo Honorable Kiryowa Kiwanuka abadde Attorney General. Kakati Minister of Energy and Mineral Development ne batuleetera Honorable Dr. Monique Musenero Musanza Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development Honorable Henry Musasizi. So koleke wano siwe wabadde minister waffe the economy is Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development banaye mumpabule minister waffe tabiranga ekifo yakivudde naye tomanja gye tweyongera bayinza okubanga bamuwadde ekirala. Wano bataddewo Henry Musasizi, Minister of Foreign Affairs ne batuleetera Ambassador Adonia Ayebale, Minister w'ensonga z'ebweru. Ono mwami yabadde ambassador w'eggwanga Uganda mu US era gundi abadde amwogerako nnyo Bob Wine mumumanyi. Omulala waneno Minister of Gender, Labor and Social Development ne batuleetera Honorable Lieutenant General Henry Tomokunde Kakurugu eyali ayagala entebe y'obwa president kati wuuna aze mu kabineti. Ogwo gwe muzannyo gw'ebyobufuzi. Minister of Health, Minister ow'ebyobulamu batuleetedde Honorable Dr. Chris Balyomus ono yabadde Minister wa Information and Communication not so. Minister of Information, Communications Technology and National Guidance ne batuwate Dr. Ruth Acheng Okero. Maybe there is a mistake here. There is a mistake. Dr. Chris Balyomus nabera Minister of Health, Minister of Information, Communication Technology and the National Guidance ate nabera Dr. Jane Ruth Achenge Ochero yaba wano wabaddewo typing era eyawandiise bino nedda maybe bajja kutuwabula. Minister of Internal Affairs ne batuleetera Professor Ephraim Kamuntu Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs ne batuletera Norbert Mau akomyewo. Minister of Lands, Housing and Urban Development ne batuletera Honorable Judith Nabakoba. Minister of Local Government Honorable Balaam Barugahara bamujje ku kyabana. Minister of Public Service General Katumba Wamala. Minister of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities Honorable Tom Butime. Minister of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives Honorable Sanje Tana. Minister of Water and Environment Major General Kahinda Otafire bamujeri ku kya Internal Affairs bamulese no kukulira byamazzi na butonde. Minister of Works and Transport, can you guess? Onabadde Katumba Wamala. Not so. Kati batuletedde Honorable Byamukama Fred. Wetugenda mu other ministers oba ministers of state office of the president ne batuletera Minister of State Office of the President Economic Monitoring ne batuletera Honorable Alum Sandra Santa. Minister of State Office of the President Ethics and Integrity ne batuletera Honorable Akero Rose. Office of the President, Minister of State Office of the Vice President ne tubeerawo ne Honorable Mutasingwa Diana Nankunda. Office of the Prime Minister, Minister of State Office of the Prime Minister, Relief, Disaster, Preparedness and Refugee ne batuletera Honorable Lilian Abba. Minister of State Office of the Prime Minister, Northern Uganda ne batuwa Honorable Beatrice Akelo. Wetoyongerayo Minister of State Office of the Prime Minister Karamoja ne batuwa Honorable Anyakun Esther Davinia. Minister of State Office of the Prime Minister Luwero Triangle Rwenzori Region ne batuwa Honorable Alice Kaboyo. Minister of State Office of the Prime Minister Bunyoro Affairs ne batuwa Honorable Grace Mary Mugasa. Minister of State Office of the Prime Minister Teso Affairs tulina Honorable Dr. Ongolo Obote. Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries bano bagwa mu bya bulimi n'ebirala. Kati bano ba state ministers babera wansi wa cabinet ministers, you get. Kati tuinamu Minister of State for Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries Agriculture tuina tuina Honorable Desire Muhoza. Minister of State for Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries, Animal Industry tuina Honorable Bright Ramilama. Minister of State for Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries tulina minister tuina Honorable Megade Robert Ondugwa. Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs eno yetwalibwa Norbert Mau. Kakati eno mu state tuinayo Deputy Attorney General ye Honorable Jackson Kafuzi. Minister of Defense and Veteran Affairs tuinayo Minister of State for Defense and Veteran Affairs Defense ye Honorable Akifeza Grace Ngabirano. Minister of State for Defense and Veteran ye Minister ye Honorable Oreru Huda. Minister of East Africa Affairs tuinayo Minister of State for East Africa Affairs ye Honorable Magode Ikuya. Ministry of Education and Sports tuinayo Minister of State for Education and Sports Higher Education Honorable Dr. John Christom Muyingo. Minister of State for Education and Sports Primary Education Honorable Phils Chemtai. Minister of State for Education and Sports Honorable Peter Ogwanga. Ministry of Energy tugenda mu Ministry of what? Ministry of Energy and Development. Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development tuinayo Minister of State for Energy and Mineral Development Energy Honorable Sindrinas Opoloti Okasai. Minister of State for Energy and Mineral Development tulinayo Honorable Fiona Nyamtoro, mukyala wa Edlisa Msuza, Erikenzo, Nakawera Kadekano, Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, Minister of State for Finance, Planning and Economic Development, General Duties, Honorable Sise Morondo, Minister of State for Finance, Planning, for Finance, for Finance, Planning and what? Planning and Economic, Minister, Minister of State for Finance, Planning and Economic Development, Planning, Honorable Amos Lugolobi, Minister of State for Finance, Planning and Economic Development, Privatization and Investment, Miss Amina Mukalazi, Minister of State for Finance, Planning and Economic Development, Microfinance, Honorable Ashatis Kutesa Musherure, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, International Affairs, Honorable Calvin Echodu, Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Regional Affairs, Honorable Cheyune Haruna Kasolo, Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development, Minister of State for Gender, Labor and Social Development, Gender and Culture, Honorable Kutesa Mary Kamli, Minister of State for Gender, Labor and Social Development, Youth and Children Affairs, Honorable Lakisa Mase Faith, Minister of State for Gender, Labor and Social Development, Employment and Industrial Relations, Honorable Simon Mlongo, Minister of State for Gender, Labor and Social Development, Disability Affairs, Honorable Aken Joyce Okeni, Minister of State for Gender, Labor and Social Development, Elderly Affairs, Honorable Jacqueline Mbabazi, abakadde no je mulopa. Abakadde ono ye minister wamwe, Honorable Jacqueline Mbabazi, mukyala wa Mbabazi. Ministry of Health, Minister of State for Health General Duties, Honorable Anifa Bagirana Kawoya, Minister of State for Health, Primary Health Care, Honorable Dr. Charles Ayume, Minister of Information and Communication Technology and National Guidance, Minister of State for Information and Communication Technology and National Guidance Information, Honorable J. Sebugwao, Minister of State for Information and Communication Technology and National Guidance, Bana, got even to be dingo no one. Honorable Alion Yok Odria, Ministry of Internal Affairs, Minister of State for Internal Affairs, Dr. Lawrence Muganga. Ministry of Kampala Capital Authority Metropolitan, Minister of State for Kampala City Metropolitan Affairs, Honorable Kabuye Chofatogabye oyo abadde ngawo. Minister of Lands, Housing and Urban Development, Minister of State for Land, Housing and Urban Development, Housing, Honorable Pasisina Muganza, Minister of State for Lands, Housing and Urban Development, Honorable Margaret Muhanga Mugisa, Minister of State for Lands, Housing and Urban Development, Lands, Honorable Harriet Ntabazi, Ministry of Local Government, Minister of State for Local Government, Honorable Justin Nameere. Nameere banange, Nameere ali mu cabinet katonda wange. Ministry of Public Service, Minister of State for Public Service, Honorable Lydia Wanyoto Mutende, Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, Minister of State for Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, Honorable Nakawuchi Susan Nsambu, Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperative, Ministry of State for Trade, Industry and Cooperative, Honorable Tom Azza, Minister of State for Trade, Industry and Cooperative Industry, Honorable David Bahati, Minister of State for Trade, Industry and Cooperative Trade, General Wilson Mbadi, Ministry of Water and Environment, Ministry of Water and Environment, Minister of State for Water and Environment, Honorable Beatrice Anywa, Minister of State for Water and Environment Water, Honorable Aisha Sekindi, Minister of Work and Transport, Minister of State for Work and Transport Work, Mr. Siraj Musa Ali, Minister of State for Works and Transport. Yani ono State Minister for Works and Transport, ye Honorable Julius Maganda Wandera, Senior Presidential Advisors. We want our senior presidential advisors. The following persons will be appointed as senior presidential advisors in different fields to be communicated later. Oshitegede, Honorable Hamson Obua alikwabo, Honorable Ruth Nankabirwa alikwabo, Honorable Francis Mwebesa alikwabo, Honorable Evelyn Anite alikwabo, Honorable Dr. Kenneth Omona has been transferred to the diplomatic service as ambassador at a station to be communicated later. Ye cabinet Efulumye. Justin Nameere yewangulidde ogufo, Balaam Barugahale bamukyusirizaamu, General Kataha Museven akyali ku listi, n'abalala bangi. Sofa ye cabinet. Uganda 24/7 gwe mukutu kwoli, guno gwe mulimo gwange kutusangako mawulire nga gocha. Video jiweka like tusinkane mu update server ziddako akume atakumira mpera mweraba.